I'm a disabled veteran. I have a serious injury to my back. I was hired by the agency in 2012 under a special appointment that I was eligible for because I am a disabled veteran. So the agency has always known that I was disabled. From the very beginning, I was able to telework. My boss at the time I was hired, Joe Parrott, allowed me to telework on an as-needed basis. And it worked. I was able to do my job and telework and get everything done. And it was satisfactory, and there were no problems until recently. When the union got wind of the fact that I was teleworking and other employees were complaining that I was allowed to telework and they were not, the union filed a grievance, and eventually the agency agreed to allow my coworkers to telework as well. They gave everyone across the board a 2-day per week telework arrangement. My boss at the time asked me to sign the arrangement as well, and I was concerned that it would not be enough, but he had always been good to me, and we had never had any problems with it, so I went along with it, and I said I would try it. So after a couple weeks, I could tell that it was not going to work. So I went back to Joe, and I told him that it was not working out, and he said, fine, we'll talk about it, we'll work something out. Unfortunately, at the end of the month, he resigned. Today is August 18th. The new supervisor started. Her name is Susan Mann. She started on August 1st, and she had an intake meeting with us, with everybody on her first day. And during the meeting, I told her the whole thing about my back, about the pain that I was in, and how I needed additional telework if I am going to be successful in doing this job. And she seemed very sympathetic, but and she said she would get back to me, but it's August 18th and I haven't heard a word from her. I don't know what to do. Okay. So on September 1, I submitted reasonable accommodation paperwork. I submitted the paperwork, the request. I submitted the medical documentation. I gave them another copy of my Schedule A that verified that I was disabled as a veteran. I gave them everything on September 1. I was told that I should hear something back within 5 days. It's now September 30th. I haven't heard anything. I'm kind of a mess. I've been using a lot of leave, and I know that. And my supervisor talked to me about all the leave I was using. And she warned me that I could get a leave letter. Things are crap at home because I'm in pain all the time, and I can't do the kids. I can't do the chores. All I can do is make it to work. So I don't know. I'm depressed. I don't know what to do. I'm just waiting. I'm trying to stay calm. Okay, so management had a meeting with our team today, and they informed us that we have this big new project that we have to roll out, and that it's time is of the essence, and so as a result they've canceled telework for the entire team until further notice. It's November 5th. My reasonable accommodation meeting is tomorrow. I'm feeling very worried. I really don't have a lot of confidence in this process at all. I'm scared. I can't continue like this. Okay, so today is November 6th. We had the meeting today. It was me, my manager, and the reasonable accommodation specialist. I went through the whole explanation about my back and why I request telework, which is, number one, I'm taking strong medication, and it's really not safe for me to be driving when I'm taking that medication. Number two, the drive exacerbates my condition. And number three, sitting at that desk all day further exacerbates my condition. The only really comfortable position for me is laying on the floor, which is what I'm able to do when I'm at home teleworking. And so my manager made it very clear that we're very busy and that telework is off the table, which I don't understand because I do the same thing whether I'm at home or in the office. I don't know what the problem is, but that's their final decision. So she said that was a certain thing, but she would check on the reclining work desk that I found on the internet, which could possibly at least alleviate the pain while I'm in the office working. What the agency came prepared to offer was an ergonomic chair, which is what I have now, which is a piece of junk. It never was very comfortable, but I have no confidence that that would help me. And they also offered me a part-time work schedule, which is also a joke because I need money. I mean, my husband and I rely on my salary as well as his to pay the bills. So, I mean, a part-time work schedule is just out of the question. So the reasonable accommodation specialist said, I'll hear something back within 7 days. So maybe I get the chair. That would at least make things a little bit better. Okay, so today is November 19th. It's 13 days after the meeting, not 7. But I did hear back from the RA specialist today, and I'm completely baffled. She asked me to sign a medical release to give the agency an opportunity to talk to my doctor directly. And I told them I didn't understand why they needed that. She had already told me that my medical documentation was sufficient. She said, well, they just needed some additional clarifying information. And I said, well, I'm not doing that. I don't trust them like that. So she said, in the alternative, they could prepare some questions that they needed answered by the doctor. And I said, absolutely, no problem. And so she said they would put those questions together and get back to me within a day or two. So it's December 20th, 44 days after the reasonable accommodation meeting. I received this email from the RA specialist today. The agency cannot authorize telework due to workload. The reclining workstation that you requested costs over $8,000, and the agency will not pay for this. Since you refused the ergonomic chair and part-time work schedule that the agency offered you, there is no accommodation available for you. Because the agency can't accommodate you in your current job, you can request reassignment. But I don't recommend it because to qualify reassignment, you would have to certify that you can no longer perform the essential duties of your current position. Therefore, if there's no vacant, funded position that can be found that you qualify for, the reasonable accommodation process ends and the case is closed. At this point, you could be removed due to inability to perform based on your medical condition. I called that RA specialist. I told her I am not signing anything that says that. First of all, it would be untrue because I am doing my job. I'm not doing it well, but I'm doing it. I'm falling apart, but I'm doing my job every day. I need my job and I can't afford to lose my job. So the RA specialist says that the next step is for the agency to issue a denial. And with the denial, I can file an EEO complaint. Guess I'm filing an EEO complaint. It's December 21st. Happy holidays. Not. I went to my doctor because my legs are swelling and she's like asking me why I'm not teleworking. I told her what's going on. She noticed my mood and she diagnosed me with depression and anxiety. She gave me a prescription and suggested that I go talk to someone. Then I get home and my husband and I get in a huge fight and he's noticed my weight gain and I'm cranky and I'm not so nice with him and the kids. I'm not accessible because I'm laying in the bed all the time. And then just a minute ago, I hung up from my friend at work. And she called because she's worried about me because she noticed that I'm missing a lot of work and that when I am at work that I've been making mistakes. My boss has noticed that I'm making mistakes. It's hard to do your best under these circumstances. This week has been outrageous. Okay, so on the 8th, I got the notice that my reasonable accommodation had been denied. Then on January 9th, they restored telework to everyone. So now we're back to 2 days a week of telework. So on today, the 10th of January, I went to my manager and I asked, well, okay, so we don't have this limitation on telework anymore. What about my reasonable accommodation? And she's like acting all brand new. And it's like, well, you got telework. And I reminded her that I had 2 days of telework when I requested reasonable accommodation, that this situation was not sufficient to address my needs. So she said she would get back to me. Okay, so I'm really behind with these video entries, but I'm trying to keep good records. Okay, so on February 5th, I was admitted to the hospital for an emergency appendectomy. I was crazy sick. I was out for 6 weeks. I got back to work on March 15th. I immediately went to my supervisor and asked, what they had come up with in terms of our last conversation when I had asked for additional telework. And she informed me that she had talked to the reasonable accommodation specialist and was informed that my reasonable accommodation case had been closed out, and that if I wanted accommodation, that I would need to submit a new request for accommodation form. And, I'm asking, but I asked you. And she's like, okay, you got to submit the paperwork, and that she couldn't do anything without the paperwork. So then on March 18th, I resubmitted a new request, got all of the documentation together and submitted it to them. This time they were much quicker about it. They did get back to me on March 30th, and they said that the medical documentation that I submitted needed to be updated because I had submitted the same medical documentation I submitted before, seeing how I'm suffering from the same condition and my condition is the same, whatever. So now I need to get them new updated medical documentation. They said that it would probably go much quicker and much easier if I just signed the medical release. And so I'm just at a point of such frustration. I said, fine, I'll sign it. So they have the medical release, and hopefully, we'll get a decision back and it will be favorable and I can get my life back. We'll see. I'm living a nightmare. I got 2 emails from my manager today. One informing me that I had exhausted my FMLA and that I couldn't get any more FMLA for the year because I had exhausted it. And almost immediately after that, I got an email denying my reasonable accommodation, and I'm dumbfounded. What they've said is that my doctor's assessment, which says that I can't stand for more than 2 hours, sit for more than 2 hours, walk for more than 2 hours, how they do those assessments, that basically that they do not feel that telework, it would be an effective accommodation, and therefore they denied my reasonable accommodation. I'm going to the union.